Hi. Well, thank you for agreeing to be interviewed this evening.
Thank
If
you.
you could, for the record, just state your full name, your country of birth, and your date of
The-
birth.
all right.
Your full date of birth.
I'm 70 years of age.
Oh, how long's that then? What's the date of birth?
No, that's a joke. Anyway,
You still look good anyway.
yeah. My name is Byron Albert Steele. I was born in Clarendon, Jamaica, 1939.
Right. Okay. So it's about the wartime, really, then, isn't it?
Yeah, we didn't. In those days, we always see quite a few cars that are parked up in the district. Of course, people didn't have petrol.
Right.
But coming from school one evening, I saw the first Zeppelin hovering around the place, you know. And
what?
Zeppelin, they call them.
Zeppelin? Is that a plane?
A balloon, yeah, like, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was frightened.
Okay. So can
yeah.
I just move this way?
I was so frightened I ran because I've never seen anything like that before.
Was it big?
Yeah, like a balloon, like.
Did you ever
It's
want to
quite
fly in
nice.
it?
Huh? No,
No.
no, it didn't look safe to me. Yeah, but I suppose it was I was very small, you know, because the war was over in 1945.
Yeah.
Firecrackers and things like that, you know, they what we use for what we call them, firecracker. Yeah. Fireworks,
Yeah.
they call them firecrackers.
Is that when the war ended? You used that?
Yeah, well, I never knew them until I was about 15.
All right. But
Because,
you remember those?
Yeah, because they didn't because of the war and what has actually happened. A lot of those things weren't they couldn't afford to send it to the West Indies to Norway at all. So all resources for the war.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about your family.
Well, I was brought up by my grandmother, and there are 7 of us in my family. I'm the first one.
First of 7.
Yeah, yeah. The reason why I was brought up by my grandmother, her husband went to Cuba and didn't come back. And she didn't have a boy, so I was the first male child in the family. So,
Right.
yeah.
Were you the only boy or?
At the time, I was the first male child in the family.
Yeah.
Well, in my family, I've got 2 brothers and 4 sisters.
So it's quite a big family, really,
Yeah.
7 children.
Yeah.
So how do you get on with them?
All right. One is coming to see me shortly from Canada.
Canada?
Yeah, from Canada, yeah.
Right.
My brother came here about 61, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Because at the time when I saw people going to England, I laughed and I said, I'm not going to any cold country. and we thought they were stupid to believe in a warm climate to a cold climate. But then after that, when my brother came here, he wrote to me and said he think that I would do very, very well. And he think I should come, you know. So, but then it was 63, and we didn't have any link with Britain as such because we had independence 1962.
Oh, really?
But they always said, "While there's a will, there's a way." So all the time they were still allowing certain amount to come in, but not any and anybody. So I did an interview with the immigration people.
Right. Was that in Jamaica?
In Jamaica, yeah. And they wanted to find out if I was okay. They wanted to find out who was suitable, you know, because this would be like a Canadian thing.
Yeah.
At the time, people wanted to go to Canada. Anybody, it's not anybody could go. You have got to have some form of vocation that you could live by, you know. Anyway, about 3 months after I had a letter from the House of Commons that I was successful, and I was accepted as a student.
So how did you feel about that then?
I was very happy. And so I worked in it, and I was able to come. You know,
so how did you travel to England?
By the ship, SSS Kenya. That was an experience.
You remember?
Yeah, raw chicken.
Raw chicken?
Yeah. Well, you know, it fed And
What was that about then?
hmm?
What was that about?
No, the way they cook the chicken, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, I see.
One of the experience, they said I should, old wives' tale. I should put some newspaper in my stomach, in my stomach and inside on my chest,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't vomit. Old wife tale.
And you believed it?
Well, I believe it. I did it. Yeah. And when we started, when after leaving Jamaica, and get off into the deep North Atlantic about 3 or 4 days after.
Yeah.
Oh, I was sick as a parrot. So that newspaper, I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had the ship doctor, and I went, and they gave me some medicine, and the next thing I know, I was all right for the rest of the journey.
So when were you travelling then to England? What time of the year?
May to June somewhere. Yeah. June, May to June, March. Yeah.
About that time.
Yeah, March. That's right.
So was it pretty cold then? Or was it warm?
Well, when I came here, it wasn't all but cold because they had a bad winter, but things was shaping up. You know.
Right. So you didn't get any more seasickness?
No. That was history.
You sorted it out.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things, when they brought my lunch, one of the days, just an apple. I don't know if the doctor requested that.
Yeah.
I didn't talk, but I was glad that I wasn't vomiting or anything. You know.
Okay. So when you actually saw England from the ship and you were arriving,
well, I
think?
couldn't see it because we arrived at night.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you know. So
what were your feelings and your thoughts when you first landed?
Why there were so much factories here. I didn't know it was their homes.
Yeah.
No.
So where did you land?
Southampton.
Southampton.
I actually, my son, when he was at the institute, I went down there the other day, and where the first spot that we landed, I was looking over into the sea because I said, "Oh, this is an experience, you know." So I must be stupid to want to do something like this, you know. But it has paid off.
Yeah. So it brought back memories going
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about accommodation when you first arrived? Who did you stay with?
Well, my brother, when he realized that I was coming, he rent a room for the two of us.
Yeah.
And that worked out very well. And then shortly after, my cousin bought a house.
Yeah.
And said he didn't like me living with strangers, so I should come and live at his own place, you know, and that was the turning point of my life, you know. So, but I dare say, when we came here in the 60s, a lot of people were still living in one room, families in one room.
Yeah.
Because for the first 3 months I came here, I didn't work. So this lady, she had a little baby, probably 3 weeks old. And of course there was no help at all, you know. Yeah. So I became her babysitter while she ran little errands, you know. Right. You know, and so this was the problems of the mothers in those days, you know. While the dad would be at work. And if he's at night, he would want to sleep and all that. So it was very terrible. But in most cases, where I was staying, I think that shop worked and shift. So, but there comes a time when she was left with the children. You know, yeah.
And a babysitter, that was your first job then?
First job, yeah. Babysitter. But, you know, mind you, she was very good to me because if I was cooking, she would come and say, "What are you cooking?" You know, and if I wasn't getting it right, she'd say, "No, you don't do it this way." You know. Yeah.
So it was just men sharing together then.
Yeah. Well, this was landlord. Landlord lived in property, on the property. Yeah. And probably his girlfriend, you know, and his stepdaughter, and this man and with his wife and 2 children, and I lived. And then my brother and I, you know, shared one of the other rooms. Because it was a big enough house, and Villiers Street.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that went down a bit. Okay, you know. But there again, I was very lucky because of this chap who had a house, and we had even had gas heaters, which was never heard of, In most of the houses it was coal fire, but they only had gas heaters downstairs, so we had was to get the famous notable paraffin lamp, yeah, and then we would keep the room warm and amuse ourselves by playing. When in those days, just coming from Jamaica, we didn't have reggae as such. It was just in the young stage, so we had ska and blue beat. So we always we had some. Well, most people in those days, as an entertainment, they had a gram, So we'll go down to the town and buy our LPs. Well, it's American. We had people like what was his name now? Chuck Berry and all like that. Little Richard and all, a lot of them. So we they were the thing, and then. The Jamaican record, the West Indian records coming through, and the Trinidad, calypso and things like that.
Yeah.
So we had a fair choice of music, but at that time the American rock and roll scene and the blues and jazz ruled the day.
Yeah.
Until reggae and all those things started to show itself. But being brought up in an English environment, more or less in the Caribbean, because we were our socialization process was done through the British system. So most of the British songs, we knew them. I like to go wandering and things like that. And most of the cultural songs for the British, we knew them because we sang them in Jamaica as well. Because after I left my school in Jamaica, which I spent 12 years there, which is where I did my third year, which is like A-levels.
Okay.
I went on to a farm school where I studied for 3 years doing farming, cash crops, banana, yam, potatoes and things. So more or less research farms.
Yeah.
And we do a little bit of animal husbandry there as well and things like that. But I was primarily in charge of the food section. Some of the yams we're getting here now, yellow yam, white yam and things like that, So it was a development process, and we were supervised by people from the agricultural college, to make sure we got it right. And so within that time of my training, we had all our social occasion. We would have when Jamaica itself had a governor, and then they would visit the campsite and things like that, and so on. So what I'm trying to say that the system was just like the English system. We normally call the place the Gordonstown of Jamaica. Gordonstown, that famous school in Scotland.
Oh, Gordonstown.
Gordonstown of Jamaica.
Prince Charles went there.
That's right. Because we did all sorts of things, anything that was worth doing.
Yeah.
And because of that, a lot of us, a lot of my friends, they joined the regular army. Some went to Vietnam. Some came in the British Army. But at first I wanted to, but after I came to England, there was no war, nothing, so I didn't bother. It wasn't compulsory that you had to go.
No. So your brother invited you to come over because he said you could do quite well. What were your plans then when you came to England?
Well, spend 5 years and get back.
Did it happen?
I could if I wanted to,
Yeah.
But I met someone. I met someone.
Right.
We can talk about jobs now. Yeah, my first And my first interview was for a nurse, the nursing training.
Yeah.
There I met this lovely young miss, you know, I
Oh,
don't think she was more than 17 or,
yeah.
something like that at the time. And I had my eyes on her, but I didn't take any notice, you know, because I was of two opinions, whether I should stay here or whether I should go back. Anyway, it so happened that I didn't like the nursing, so I went on the buses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I didn't like it as a vocation, but
Yeah.
the salary was,
Mm.
I couldn't work for that.
Not high enough.
You know, and I didn't have any relatives here as such,
Yeah.
was a brother too, you know, so, and I had was to support my grandmother.
Mm. So you sent your money back?
Yeah, so really, although I came as acceptable as a student,
Yeah.
I could work, you know.
Okay.
And the bosses, the management were quite good to me because they allowed me to do my GCA during the time as well, you know, which was never heard of. And a lot of the employers would have liked that opportunity, but they didn't get it, and I didn't say anything.
Mm.
But
The other workers there.
yeah, they didn't know, you know, because it wasn't something that they did. But I think I got on well with the inspectors and the management, so they took a shine to me, and I only needed 2 hours in the evening,
Yeah.
you know, so they had sent a conductor to relieve me,
Yeah.
And
And
that
you
was
did
it,
that?
yeah. You
So
know.
in general, how did you find it working
On the buses, well, that was an experience.
with white people, basically? How did they
Well,
take you?
coming from a white background, it didn't bother me, because some of my families were white in Jamaica, you know, and where I was living, beside our property was an Assyrian shop, and all these white friends, they would come there to shoot, because they had a shooting reserve as well.
Yeah.
And some of my cousins were white, and some were white, you know, we're going to say pure white,
Yeah.
but they never really live in that area.
Okay.
You know, some of them, they after a while they went to live in New York.
Mm.
You know, so I wasn't really shocked to see I was, you know. What I was worried about is that a lot of the things that we did in Jamaica was more advanced than what they were doing here at the time, you know.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even the schooling
Yeah.
and that perspective. Things that we knew it wasn't taught in the ordinary schools, you know. You had was to go into higher education. So it shows that we had a firm background of being mainstream people.
Yeah.
You know, and because of this, I didn't find it too difficult at the time.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, I realized that there was a problem. That I would be a bus conductor, a bus driver for the rest of my life. I wouldn't reach anywhere.
Why was that?
Because the system wasn't geared up for that. We came here to do some work, like to help with the transport, help with the hospitals, but not to really elevate ourselves to nothing more.
Okay.
Or help with the factories if you couldn't read, or work on the rail or something like that. It was how should I put it now? It was, we just had the war, so the country had was to rebuild itself. You know, so I think I realized this was what was going to happen, that unless we got up ourselves and do what we had to do, we wouldn't reach anywhere. You know, and this is what I think happened to a lot of West Indian parents, that their children didn't see them going to night school or anything.
Yeah.
So they developed that sort of, the role wasn't there, and they became, some of them probably went to work on the buses after their parents retired,
So
or
no
positive role wasn't there.
what you're saying.
Yeah, you know. But nevertheless, I could use my wife's parent as an example. He worked on the buses until he retired, but he managed was to get 3 of his children to university. So I think that he has 5 children.
Yeah.
2 went to college, but 3 went through university, which I think that was a very good plus in those days.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of the first chap to graduate in HNC mechanical engineer was Lenville Street in 1960, in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know. And he himself even found it difficult to find a job after that.
Yeah.
So he migrated to Canada, where he worked until now.
Okay.
You know, so I knew of a few of the West Indians who kids realize, well, my father is working to help me. I'm going to create a positive role.
Right.
You know, I'm going to do something to prove to him that I'm a positive child, and you know, but it wasn't a lot.
Right.
You know, because we would be the second generation, because the first one, those who are in the 80s now, they would be here before us, and then you know the third generation. You know, so but I'm pleased to say that the third generation is doing very well. You know, very, very well, and I like what has happened that you're interviewing me, which shows, you know, it's a form of positiveness, which is the sort of things I like to see and want to hear, and we want to hear.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
So what other plans did you have for yourself in England
At the time,
at the time?
well, I wanted to be a chartered accountant, but that was never heard of. You know, I realized that I wasn't going to get it at the time. So I spent 3 years in the buses, and I saw the chaps who came after me, and they were not as competent as me. They were becoming inspectors and all sorts of things.
Right.
So I said, well, this is not a job for me anymore. But so I left and went to the post office, and they said, well, we've got vacancies, but you've got to pass the test. You know, firstly it was a postman. I said, I must can do better than this, because I saw how difficult it was in the snow, you know, being a bus conductor. So I didn't really. The evening I should have turned up for the interview, I didn't go. No, so someone suggested, why don't you try and get in the post office at Dudley? Because formerly I've worked for 3 years as a postal clerk and sub-postmaster in Jamaica, so I understand that system.
Yeah.
So I went to the post office, and they had vacancies both in the clerical side as well as in other areas. So I took my pick and I went to the telephone exchange, and I took the test, which surprised all of them.
Yeah.
Because they told me I had 100 upon 100, you know. So he said, well, a lot of your chops came here, but they failed the interview. They failed the test, but you really showed us that you know, that you knew what you were doing. It was things like geography and spelling, which doing a third year in Jamaica, you cover all those grounds, you know, things like that. And other logics, you know, other things, you know, and a little bit of general knowledge question that they would ask you in person, you know.
So how did you feel that these employers or English people, how did you feel that they viewed black people?
Well, they wanted to employ you, but they wouldn't. That's it. They will employ you. You know, there's no doubt about that. Because some of the jobs they didn't want them themselves. You see, so they we needed the money.
Yeah.
Because most of us have said in the Caribbean didn't have that sort of financial background, because the rich West Indians, irrespective of where from, doesn't travel unless he's coming in business or he sends his children to study.
Yeah.
because I had a cousin who was very, very wealthy, and he sent his 2 daughters here to study.
Yeah.
And as soon as they finished, they went back. So this goes to show that the rich ones, they didn't bother to. There was no need for them to leave the country. They wouldn't anyhow.
Yeah.
But the poorer ones, that was to get out. But there again, I could put a question sign that because we were children, so we didn't know whether we would have made it there or made it wherever, you know. So that was a lot of experience again, in seeing the international world. Going back to the question, the employers didn't care about us more than that. All they wanted to know that we were there to do the job.
Okay.
And a lot of our jobs became sick and died, you know, because some of them didn't understand fairness, qual cost industry and all those things, you know, and they didn't make it.
You mean they died from what?
Well, they died, you know. It would be difficult to say why they died, you know, but they died. I see, but we think more or less that it would be something to do with their jobs.
Okay.
Right. And so going back to my side of the story, I worked there worked at this place for 3 years, and ended up as like a head, like a supervisor, like. And then I decided that I want to leave there again. So I came to Wolverhampton. I asked for a transfer to Wolverhampton. And then I worked in Wolverhampton for 5 years, for 10 years. I did the whole thing for 10 years. I spent 5 years in the management team at BT, supervisory management team.
Yeah.
And that showed me that if you work hard, you probably could achieve something. But even then, they were not particularly interested whether I was a supervisor or what. All they were interested in that the job was done properly. Because in those days, you didn't have computers like call centers now.
Yeah.
So we had to write on little cards for the thing, you know, data cards. And there's a lot of work, quite a lot of work, you know. People don't understand the telephone system as they do now. Even when we had the answering machine, when the doctors, and those, because I always do a lot of that, and the interception, we call it. And when the people would ring up and said, and they would get the answering machine, they didn't even understand that. Some of them would say, "Speak up, I cannot hear you." The thing would cut itself out, you see, and then they'd ring up and say, "I was talking to a man and he cut off." And I didn't get the number, you know, until like that. So, you know, it was a learning process for everybody, you know. You know, we were no exceptional, they were no exceptional. So as time goes on, I realized that I wasn't going to reach anywhere with the post office. Because they were not in the habit of promoting black people to anything substantial. So I decided that I'll have to do something with my life. So I went off to, well, within that period I got married. You know, I got married 1967. It worked out, yeah, great. So I said, I've got a wife now. I've got to do something with my life. And within that period I had a child as well. So we talked about it, and I took voluntary redundance from the post office, which was quite good. I didn't get a lot of money, but it gave me a little push start. And they were very nice when I was leaving. They said I could always come back. As a matter of fact, they asked me to come back a few times, but I decided that I wouldn't go back.
So where did you go?
I went on to Luton to do my H&D.
So you stayed in Luton?
I stayed in Luton for a year. But there again, that was another problem. Lecturers hate the sight of us. As a black person, they didn't think that a man should leave his work and come to as a student, because that wasn't the plan, you know.
How do you know that?
Well, the attitude, well, you know,
Yeah.
the attitude, they were very racist.
Yeah. So give me some examples of.
One of them would say, you shouldn't be here and things like that, you know, you can't do it, things like that. You know, these are sort of negative feedbacks you'd get back.
So what were you thinking? What were you
Well, I
feeling?
just look on him as if he was ignorant, you know. And some of the students were racist as well.
Yeah.
And they, if you miss anything, miss a lecture, they wouldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were not really friendly, you know. They were more or less to intimidate you, you know. So that didn't put me off, you know. But of course, I had a purpose in mind.
Right.
So what I did, I decided that I would come back to Wolverhampton because my wife was on her own most of the time, and my son, who was 3 at the time, or 4, he didn't like me being absent from home.
Okay.
So I came back, and within that period, another child came on the way, and she became sick. So I was to take a break for a couple of years and help with the family. And then I went back and finished what I was doing. And I did a post-HND, post-BTEC as they might call them, in technology, telecommunication, and finance, and the other modules that were required.
So you had a couple of breaks, you said, was it a couple of years?
Yeah,
Did
because...
anything improve in that time?
Did
anything improve in that time?
Well, no. Well, not really. All I was concerned about now was for the welfare of my family, and to have 2 boys, you know, and things like that. And so that gave me determination that I must finish. I must, you know, to show them that it can be done, you know. And one of the things that I said to my son when he could understand, you know, a little of those things, they were around 10 or 11, I said, please make sure you understand the rudiments of mathematics and don't leave calculus out the argument.
Why did you tell him that?
Because I realized that was the trick. A lot of us go through an interview as black people, and you might get these sort of algebraical things to do, and you would have a clue if it's a sensible job, because they caught me with it. And I realized now that was a catch. That was another form of intimidation.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So got to say that well, he can, but he can't do it.
Yeah. So you wanted to prepare yourself.
Prepare my son that to say that should never have happened to him. I see. So anyway, our manage was to fall in line and understood the concept of what it was about. You know, well, some of the concepts, you know, that could make me employable in that area. And so after I finished, I went in and worked with the MSc for some time as a manager. And I realized with my past experience what was happening to young black people. I had probably 60 or 70 young black people coming to me who had the ability, but they didn't have good GCE results. Okay. And I realized now that the system, that something was wrong with the system. Either the teachers weren't no good, or the students were discouraged, or because so many of them all of them, if you talk to 10 or 20, they all tell you the same thing. So what I did at the time of becoming a manager and realizing that something has to be done, I run a lot of in-house courses. Even when a GC mathematics class, you get the teachers in, access course, and quite a lot. Well, things was happening then, you know. The government was waking up a bit to the reality of not only black people, but to young people as a whole.
What year was that?
1986, 88. And so I managed to get at least 70% of them in full employment after I was finished with them. Some went back to university.
Yeah.
Some even went as far and did the masters.
Mm.
So, I didn't become a chartered accountant, but I was still fulfilling my role,
Yeah.
And one of the time during my H&D studies, I did a supervisory management program, and that was the opening of me to see the it opened my eyes to see what was in the environment, what was how the industries operate and things like that, and that really gave me an idea for forward thinking.
Yeah.
To know that anybody at all, anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it. So after leaving Afro, I went to an export college to study export management. So you see, I was always a forward thinker, because I realized a lot of us was eating yam, bananas, and it was coming in the country, and black people wasn't importing it. So so someone was importing it, and I decided that I would help other black people to set up their business, which I helped quite a lot. Even
did you find that difficult to initiate?
Once I found out what I knew, that you could if you didn't know anything, you could ask. It wasn't difficult. A chopper at a factory, and he wasn't doing well. There was problem there, but because of my experience, I helped him, and it became a very successful business. And one day, this has been the high point of my life. I feel I've done something in England, something worthwhile. I was in the front room there about 6 years ago, I think. Yeah, 6-7 years ago. And he came in and he said, Byron, I'm going to open my factory now. I've spent a few $100,000 and I wanted to open it for me. I was elated. I said, me? Why not ask the acting Prime Minister or somebody? He said, no, you help me. You know what you're talking about. And so he said, you, as a matter of fact, you'll have to open it and you'll have to give the speech.
Right.
So I remember I gave a speech about the auto experiment with workers working in the industries that, the environment wasn't very suitable for and friendly, the way they go to work, the ergonomics of the whatever wasn't, and I gave a lovely speech on that, Of course, there was he had about 15 employees, and so from then, I go from strength to strength. And then after that, I went back to zero. I had a very bad car crash. Yeah, and that prevented me from being a millionaire, because I knew I would have made it. A very, very bad car crash, and I was fainting left, right, and center. And luckily for me that my wife was a nurse at the time, and she knew what was happening. And they told me that they didn't think I would get over it. But it took me some time, quite a few years after a lot of they couldn't treat me for. They didn't know what to treat me. I would be talking to you and then I would be on the floor. And this went on for years. Yeah.
So how were you feeling about that, really?
Well, I didn't lose my confidence, and I did, I didn't feel that, what's the use, but I didn't lose it completely, although I wasn't the person I would have liked to be. I knew something was wrong. Well, as time goes on, I got over that. I didn't get over that, but I got my acts together, and I started back again. And so from then I saw another problem with black people and their housing accommodation. That didn't look too right to me at all, but there isn't much I could do. I did not have that experience because working with BT at the time, and for some reason or another, I got a new council house, which wasn't heard of really in those days, you know.
Mm.
It was in the 70s,
Yeah.
early 70s. But I do realize visiting my friends, some of them, the place were rat infested,
Yeah.
and things like that, and some of them were started to suffer from asthma, like myself, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided 1987, I went back to celebrate Jamaica independence and work with the police and the things to see what was how Jamaica was progressing since we left here, you know, and it was quite good because a lot of protocols from Britain came down and things like that. And I was one of the supervisor at the police gate and things like that, you know, as a friendly thing, like, you know. I did that for 2 days and they looked after me. So I said to my wife at the end of the day, I said, I think I'm going back to Jamaica. But after we came back to England, it wasn't practical because Stephen was then about to start university institute. Yeah. Within that time, I met Mr. Norman Manley as well, and we had a very Michael, yeah, and we had a very serious chat. You know, the influx of the migrants coming up, and we talked about the pension, the violence, all sorts of things, and
that's Michael.
Prime Minister. He was then acting Prime Minister, opposition leader, and we had a very good chat, a group of us, and he opened. The things he said to us was very, was motivating. You know, things like if we want to start voluntary programs, voluntary organizations, we should make sure that we get the pertinent training. That when we are in the thing, it wouldn't fold up, you know. And this is one of the things that he said he wasn't happy about. There's a lot of voluntary organizations in England, but it appears as if they weren't reaching anywhere, you know, because of, you know, probably feedback that he got, you know, things like that. So he said, for us to go forward, we must make sure that we find out what is required of us to make the organization a successful organization. And so I had that in things like that, you know. So I asked him, what about Jamaica? What would he like some of us to return? He said, yes, we might not be able to pay you the salary, but we'd like you to return because you have acquired skill now that would help us, you know. But there again, within that period now, coming 1988, 1990, my wife, being an health visitor at the time, she saw a problem. He said all the West Indians needed to be catered for because a lot of them were dying in environment that wasn't really good for them, but the exit wasn't good, put it that way. So she got together with one of the ministers, Pastor Massey, you know, and they formed a nursing association. And even when she invited me to come in, I said, I want to go home. But I went down and I saw what they were doing, and they called me in as a member of a committee. And the next thing they asked me to be the treasury. And this wasn't for this was for a nation association as well. Sandwell and the Nation Association. So I worked with them for about 6 years, doing the finance and things like that. And then within that period, we were able to develop an housing association, or another West Indian housing association, linked with the church, is known as Dorcas, which probably I've heard about it. And which we've had a few bungalows, and that's going quite well. And I must say, I'm glad I stayed back in Britain because I'm trying to improve the system, you know. And
since coming to England, you've accomplished quite a lot in your career and in the community.
That's right.
As well.
In the community, you know, and So I would have said even then that although the 60s were dark, because when you went in the buses, you had was to be, as a bus conductor, you had was to be very careful. You never know who would attack you, because you had all the elements there. People wouldn't like to see us around, and they, working the buses or wherever. Yeah. So we had a few fights, and I got out of them alive as well. It wasn't really as I didn't have any, but the group that I was with, because I wasn't a fighter, they fight them off. But by and large, I suppose you'll get that in any country at the time. You see, but there again, I must respectfully say, the people who did not leave England and do not understand black people, be very difficult to get along with, because some of them would say to you, I remember in my working life, you should go back and stay in your coconut tree, Some of them would say, they normally talk about mud huts,
That's
Mud huts.
mud huts.
Yeah, one night they had a dance at the Wolfen Hall. And these are chaps who always go for a beer. I like a drink, at the time, before I became a Christian. A practicing Christian, I should say.
Yeah.
And youngsters would create a bit of, I would like to say, excitement.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was at the Wolfen Hall, and I remember a chap that I thought was one of us. It was a white chap, because we would go and have, if I want whiskey, if I want brandy, he'd buy it for me. But he didn't like me, and I didn't know that until this night I was in the telephone exchange, and I heard he said, because it was just across the road at Red Lion Street, and he said, "You should all thank Queen Victoria." I said, "Oh, that's your attitude." I didn't have nothing to do with him again until I heard he's dead. So they had it there.
Yeah.
But they couldn't. They were afraid to come forward. You see. So yeah. So this is this is the sort of environment that we knew existed at the time. But by and large, that's one, and of many who was on our side, because I met a lot who was very, very genuine until they die. If there's anything there I don't know, because they'll come and they'll eat with me, and we'll go out to, even where the social clubs or we'll go out together, and I didn't feel uncomfortable or nothing. And well, a lot of those guys, they've died now. So it's I still have the balance, to know that in every given society, you've got people who you can trust, and you've got people who you cannot trust, just like you've got people who will stand up for the BME, and you've got people who will not lift a finger to help them, You see, and you'll find that the people who feel as I'm all right, the black people say I'm all right, why should I help him? Those are the people who've never reached anywhere.
So you've experienced racism. Do you remember your children suffering the same?
Yeah. Well, what has actually happened? Yes, I experienced racism. Because I even said, even my working environment, I know it was there. I saw it.
Yeah.
You see, because no way would I have been promoted to a full supervisor, although I was doing the duties. I knew that much, because at the time, if I didn't do the job better than them, I wouldn't be there. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to move out because I realized I was in the wrong environment. Well, with my children now, and my wife will say something about that. I always show them the two sides of a thing. You know, but in every given society, you're going to have bad black people, bad white people, good white people, good black people. So it's up to them to strike the balance, you know. How do they integrate in such an environment? For if you're working with an English job or someone else from another country who is white and he doesn't like you, that doesn't say you shouldn't work with him. You see, as long as he doesn't try to create a problem for you, and if he starts to create the problem, then you should assert yourself. Let him know where you stand. And of course, I've done that on more than one occasion. You know, like one of the time when I was on the buses, they would lay out some old buses for us, and when I go for the bus, probably it wasn't ready, anything like that. And they would be having excuses as a bus conductor, and I know I would be late, and then I assert myself once, and it never happened again. You see, no, that wasn't a racist thing, now nothing, but I think it was just, you've got to strike the balance to know that some people are complacent, and you've got to let them know, but you're not going to put up with it, you know. So things like that, you know. But by and large, I would like to say that black people has reached a four-way, you know, whether they be Asian, Chinese, or what, and the world itself, I should have said, has become a global village. So there's no time now for people to think, oh, he's black, I'm not going to let him through. It's too late for that. What we've got to do is to work together and see how we can make the millennium or Britain a safer place for everybody. You know, because as I've said before, it can be done, but one must be prepared to work hard, not really sit back and feel as if, well, I've got enough money now, I can leave the country. That isn't going to solve the problem. Because a lot of the West Indians who had that sort of attitude, that okay, I'm getting back, they didn't bother to really see to that the children become something useful in the community. You know, they said, well, although we're interested to go back to the Caribbean and live in a very big house, and a lot of them squandered their money in that squandered their money in that direction, which was a very stupid thing, because what has actually happened, a lot of them is returning back to the country. And I think if hindsight, if they had really understand what they were about, but the thing is not so much finance, but to create a stable environment for your children, like letting those who can attain a degree, get a degree, those who can do other things, or learn a trade of such, fight with them, work with them, and show them that they might be discouraged, you know. But the parents who didn't bother, you know, they just, boom, sell the house, out back to the Caribbean, wherever they're from, or which other country, you know, they are the loser.
Do you feel that your children have taken on the values that you...
Yeah, I think so, because as I've said, one is an electronic engineer, and he's in the process now of probably want to start his own business, because he found out that he could help the smaller companies who couldn't afford their fees. I had one who became a pop star, Earl. He became a pop star, and that was the mainstream as well, you know. But for some reason or another, he wasn't satisfied with the environment, you know. So he decided to leave it, and he's gone back to university to improve his prospects, you know. Yeah. So is how I see it, you know. But I would like to say that things have changed dramatically, both with the police and the BME, you know. We've still got a far way to go, you know. With the death of Stephen Lawrence, which is open a can of worm and let people see what's on the other side and watch whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. And other things. Our black athletes were gaining gold medals and other accolades, you know. It shows that, well, black people is contributing to the system as much as anybody else, you know, and they should be given a chance to do what they want to do. And the negative sides of it should never be taken into consideration in a serious light, as what they're doing now. Because the educational curriculum, as I would have seen that, looking at what my kids do at school, that needs to be adjusted if we want to have a balanced society. Because when we did our third year in Jamaica, first year we studied about Britain, we studied about the slave trade, but we still studied about other people who, William Wilberforce and all those guys who did not really want to, didn't really want to see the slave trade flourish. And they worked very hard, he and his mate, Elephant Buxton. We have Reverend Nibs and all those chaps, those churches who fought alongside with the slaves.
How old were you at the time that you learnt about that?
When I was about 16, when I did my third year, 16, 17. You know, so we found out that because the curriculum was mixed, you know, we had was to do William Shakespeare, if music be the food of love, playing. Give me excess of it, it's a feat in the appetite, my sickness and so die. I lost it of a dying effects. And we had was to study those things and to whatnot, you know.
You remembered all that?
Yeah. Much ado about nothing. So we were brought up in an environment to respect the world and to respect people.
And you don't think it's the same in Britain?
No. They were brought up they have been brought up in the system to respect some people and push down push down others. Well, this is a feudalism, you know, but I suppose this was here before, you know. But I say with the era of telecommunication, with the era of mass communication, and you can see what your brother is doing in Africa, what he's doing in India, what he's doing in China. I think people are waking up and say, hi, what's going on? Yeah, they don't only drive Rolls Royce or Lexus car in Britain, they drive it everywhere now. I was talking to a chap coming from Jamaica. I said, well, living in Jamaica now is not much different than living in Britain. You know, they might be down a little with the health side of things, but by and large, you know, the world has become a global village. This was his perception. You know. And if you talk to someone from Africa, it's the same thing.
So a lot of things have changed all over the world.
Everybody is wearing Nike trainers, Nike caps. They want what sort of the best jeans, whatnot. You know. So the world is becoming a more friendlier place.
All right. So how has Wolverhampton changed since you've been here?
Well, Wolverhampton, has changed quite a lot. You know, the environment. You know, one thing I'm impressed, and I would say thanks to the people who were in charge, they kept the old buildings, which makes Wolverhampton somewhere very special. You know, and another thing I must say, I find the people in Wolverhampton, at least those who I talk to, very friendly. You know, and they'll always give you advice, because most of my working life was in Wolverhampton and Birmingham, and they would be willing. They would always give an advice if you had problems. You know, even when I started to work in Birmingham, my boss, he called me and said, and he showed me certain things like the stuff and books, because there were a lot of girls there,
Yeah.
And he was saying, well, that doesn't say you couldn't date one of them, but you've got to be very careful because you're leaving our next culture into a different culture.
Mm.
And another old mate said to me, if I were you, I'd never talk to one of them. So he said, never talk to a girl that you work with. So all people were giving you all, because I was just starting my 20s,
Yeah.
So all sort of people were giving you positive advice.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on the buses, one told me, never ever take alcohol when you're working. Because if there's an accident, you've lost all your rights.
Mm-hmm.
And little thing that matters,
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people lost their job through alcohol or through friendliness with the feminine gender,
Yeah.
So those are my stable points, and I think they were very high points because for the longevity of one's job, those are very, very important points,
So what do you think the black and the Asian community have contributed to Wolverhampton?
Quite a
at the
lot,
present time?
quite a lot. Because you've got the Asian doctors, you've got the nurses, black nurses, and you've got them now as probation officers and other things, and other social workers and things like that. They've climbed, but I still think we've got a very far way. We haven't started yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the area of health, I don't think black people is looked after. I think that's need to be adjusted. Because I remember in the 70s, one of my cousins took sick and went to New Cross, and he died there. He had sickle cell crisis.
Mm.
And to me, the doctor didn't know how to treat it, And many other things that mental illness isn't looked after properly among black people.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're from an open country, we talk loud and we're excited, and they might feel that it's a disease or a behavioral problem, which is a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And I think the white psychiatrists need to take a look at those things as well,
Okay.
And the doctors as well, they don't understand. They don't understand the motivation of black people, And you find because of this, a lot of us have got no faith in them.
All right.
Yeah.
So on a final note then, to end the interview, what are your hopes for the future?
Well, I'm 60 years of age now.
Yeah.
I'll still soldier on, and I'll try to help other young black people. And I've help my children to develop themselves. Because the ethos of success is to develop knowledge. Not any old knowledge that is pertinent to the environment. And by doing that, success can be achieved. For you've got a lot of people might have a degree, but it's the wrong sort of degree. To pass itself by date before they even step through the university door. So do things that the environment needs. And above all, create a community spirit. An esprit de corps. Let your brother be your brother, whether you know him or not. As long as he's willing to work with you.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a good sentiment to end on. Thank you very much, Mr. Steele, for this interview.
Thanks,